Hey everyone, welcome back to John's Watch. Today I'm taking a look at a new game called Off. Off is going to be released on Steam and Nintendo Switch on August 15th, 2025. Its regular price is €15, or your regional equivalent, that's about $23–24 Canadian, and it's developed by Mortis Ghost and published by Fangamer. Now I kind of chuckled when I said new there because this game originally came out in 2008. Very old game at this point, and it was made by a Belgian development team called Unproductive Funtime, which consisted of Mortis Ghost and alias Conrad Coldwood. The original was made in RPG Maker in the RPG Maker 2003 version, and it was only in French at first. It did get a fan translation into English in 2011, but this game you're looking at right now, and the game I'm talking about, is a remaster of this 2008 game. And I'd never heard of this game before, but when I got several emails about it from the PR company, and they mentioned, this is a cult classic game that was one of the main inspirations on Toby Fox for the video game Undertale. And I've played Undertale and quite liked it. And so I thought it would be really cool to take a look at this. And, kind of as like a full circle thing here, Toby Fox does actually do some of the music, the composing for the remake of Off, which is very, very cool. Just before we get too far into this, I think the only gameplay footage you're going to be seeing is from the first hour or two of the game. That's partially because it's a game worth playing for yourself, and I don't want to show any spoilers in the footage at all. But also partially because I played the whole thing, I finished it, I played it all on my Steam Deck, worked perfectly, even though I played it before it actually had launched, which was great. But something I recently discovered, that for about the last 3 months, the recording feature on Steam Deck has been completely broken. If you've watched most of my videos, you may recall that I did videos on a couple of Square Enix JRPGs. There was the Dragon Quest III remake and Fantasia Neo Dimension. Played both of those on my Steam Deck, recorded all the footage for those on my Steam Deck, worked perfectly. But when I went to record all the footage for Off, I would record like an hour or two at a time, and usually about 2 to 4 seconds into the recording, the footage would just freeze. Like the audio would play, but the footage would freeze. And this has been a known issue with the Steam Deck for the last 3 months, just not being fixed. So even though I did play the whole thing on my Steam Deck and recorded it all just in case it would work, none of it was usable. So I'm gonna have to replay the opening on my PC to get the footage. So that's why you're just seeing some very early game footage. And also, I was given an embargo guide, which had several things to not talk about. I wouldn't talk about them anyway because they are new content that was added in the remake. So yeah, it's not just a remaster, it's mostly a remaster, but it does add some new content. And that's all I'm going to say about the new content because, my embargo guide says don't show any of it, and you can talk about it a bit, but I'm not going to go too much into details on it. So in the game Off, you technically play as yourself. When you start up the game, you can name your character, and basically your character is just kind of this entity that inhabits the actual playable character of the game. So basically, you're playing as yourself, but then you control sort of the protagonist, who is just a person called the Batter. He's a man in a baseball uniform, and his mission is to purify the world. And when you start up the game, you start in a place called Zone 0, which is just the tutorial level, and you meet a talking cat called the Judge, who looks pretty horrifying, honestly, and that's a real running theme for this game. Everything looks kind of horrifying. And so after you've finished up the tutorial and listened to the Judge in Zone 0, you're allowed to go through more zones after that, and you purify the zones of these specters. It's a fairly simple premise, honestly, and it's an RPG, kind of JRPG, I guess. It's turn-based combat, but The combat was actually very similar to Final Fantasy IV, which I'd literally just finished playing before starting this, where every character gets a turn, but kind of next to the character you can see a bar filling up, and once the bar fills up, they get to do their action. So if you have a character with very high agility, for example, their bar will fill up faster, and they'll often be able to attack, 2 times before a slow enemy has been able to attack. In combat, you control the batter, but you can also collect up to 3 additional party members who are called add-ons, and the add-ons are just 3 Greek letters for some reason. I don't know why. But other than that, the combat is fairly straightforward. You've got HP, you've got your MP basically, and you've got a bunch of skills, and your skills take certain amounts of MP, or you can always just do a regular attack for not as much damage. Occasionally your characters will enter like this energized state. I don't recall this ever being explained to me in the game, but basically it seemed sometimes after an attack, after like a successful attack, your character would get like an orange sparky effect around them, and that just meant that their next attack would do extra damage. I don't recall that being explained in the tutorial or anything, but I figured it out. It was pretty self-explanatory. So like I said, I have actually finished the game at the time of recording this video. It only took me 5.5 hours. It's fairly short. I was using a very, very old walkthrough from GameFAQs for it. It just looked very, very strange and hard to follow from the screenshots, and even in the email where I got my press code, the publisher said, if you get lost and need a walkthrough, here's like an old school one from, I think it's like LP Archive, that I used to play the original. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna play this with a guide. Definitely helped a bit, I think. I think it would probably still only take about like 7 hours if you didn't use a walkthrough, but it helped quite a bit. There must have been some tweaks made. There were several tweaks made from the original, but there was one point when I was reading the guide and I was like I was in this one area and I like looked ahead and it was like, oh, the next area is a little bit harder. Enemies will have about 2,000 HP, and I'm like in the area just before it, I'm looking at my damage and I'm doing like 50 to like 60 damage with my attack. I'm like, oh, that's gonna be a pretty big jump up. And then I go there and they do not actually have 2,000 health. So yeah, I think it's probably been made a little bit easier in the remake, which is great. Like I said, this game is so weird. It's full of so many non sequiturs. Like every enemy just looks horrifying. Like I said, if you look at the cat, the judge right from the start, it's got this massive, scary, toothy grin. Very, very strange game. But it was super engaging. I really, really enjoyed it. Like I said, it does have new stuff, new content added. So the walkthrough I was following was obviously for the original 2008 version, and I was able to, by following that, get more than one ending. Won't say how many there are, but I did get more than one ending. But then I also took a look at my achievements and noticed I was still missing like 5 or 6, and I can tell those are all tied to the new content that I just happened to miss because I was following the old walkthrough. I did actually find a little bit of the new content on my own, but just didn't find all of it. So I think I'm probably gonna pop back into it and try and find the rest of it myself. Otherwise, I'll probably just have to wait for an updated guide to come out to figure out where the rest of it was. If you like Undertale, this game is a no-brainer, honestly. Pretty similar. It's a lot darker than Undertale. Undertale was silly and quirky. It was, strange, but quirky and quite fun. Off is very strange. Like I said, silly, full of non sequiturs, but quite disturbing. A little bit, like I said, darker, scarier than I was expecting. Not actually scary, but yeah, so some pretty scary themes, I guess. And also not too long, about 7 hours for the original probably. Add another hour or so for the new content, 8 hours altogether. Not bad at all. I'd be very interested to hear in the comments if other people had heard of this game, played the original, have been eagerly waiting for the remake. Let me know, because yeah, like I said, I had never heard of this before, but I really enjoyed it. There you go, that was a look at the remaster of a game called Off. Thank you guys very much for watching. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!